As an electronic dance music DJ and producer, an avid video gamer, a cage-fighting connoisseur, and a diehard Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan, I'm no stranger to fist bumps, headshots, and what has become a general cultural sensibility of hardness associated with bro culture. But what broader affect lies behind this culture? Speaking specifically to recent trends in popular music, Simon Reynolds describes a digital maximalism, in which cultural practice involves a hell of a lot of inputs in terms of influences and sources, and a hell of a lot of outputs in terms of density, scale, structural convolution, and sheer majesty. That's a quote. We could broaden this concept of maximalism, both one, to describe a wider variety of contemporary media, from film to video games and mobile media, and two, to theorize it as a tool for transducing affect between various media and among various industries within global capitalism. The goal of this essay is to tease out the ways in which maximalist techniques of one kind of digital media production, dubstep, become codified as broader social and political practices. Indeed, the proliferation of maximalism suggests that hypermediation and hypermasculinity have already become dominant aesthetic forms of digital entertainment. More than any other electronic dance music genre, dubstep, and the various hypermasculinist cultures in which it has bound itself, has wholeheartedly embraced digital maximalism as its core aesthetic form. In recent years, the musical style has emerged as both the dominant idiom within EDM culture, as well as the soundtrack to various hypermasculine forms of entertainment, from sports such as football and professional wrestling to action movies and first-person shooter video games. As a result of the music's widespread popularity within the specific cultural space of a post-Jersey Shore bro culture, the term brostep has emerged as an accepted title for the ultra-macho, adrenaline-pumping performances of masculinity that have defined contemporary forms of digital entertainment. This essay posits digital audio production practices in brostep as hypermediated forms of masculinity that exist as part of a broader cultural and aesthetic web of media convergence in the digital age. Slide, please. Sorry. Can I just cue you for the slide?
Yeah.
All right, it's going to be a lot. All right, I'll just keep going. Media theorist Henry Jenkins defines convergence culture as the flow of content across multiple media platforms, the cooperation between multiple media industries, and the migratory behavior of media audiences who will go almost anywhere for the entertainment experiences they want. The most prominent use of brostep as a transmedial form comes from video game and movie trailers. From the fast-paced neo-cyborg and alien action thrillers such as Transformers, Cowboys and Aliens, and G.I. Joe, to dystopian first-person shooter video games such as Borderlands, Far Cry 3, you can get up the video now, and Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Modulated oscillator wobbles and bass portamento drops consistently serve as sonic amplifiers of the male action hero at the edge. So here's just a sort of selection of brostep being used. You just click back in the PowerPoint. Okay, cool. Assault rifle barrages are echoed by quick rhythmic bass and percussion chops, while the visceral contact of pistol whips and lobbed grenades marks ruptures in time and space as slow-motion frame rates mirror bass drops in sonic texture and rhythmic pacing. Hardness is the overriding affect here, compressed, gated kick and snare drum samples combined with coagulated, overproduced bass lines made up of multiple oscillators vibrating at broad frequency ranges, colonizing the soundscape by filling every chasm of the frequency spectrum. The music and the media forms with which it has become entwined has served as the effective catalyst and effective backdrop for the emergence of an unabashedly assertive, physically domineering, and adrenaline-addicted bro culture. Film theorist Laurie Palmer argues for a relational link among gender, technology, and modes of production through hypermasculinity in these types of films and video games. Some definitive features of this convergence of hypermediation and hypermasculinity include an emphasis on excess and spectacle, the centrality of surface over substance, ADHD cinema, transitory kinetic sensations that decenter spatial legibility, an impact aesthetic, an ear-splitting frenetic style. And both Robin James and Stephen Shaviro have defined the overall aesthetic of these practices as post-cinematic, a regime centered on computer games and emphasizing the logic of control and game space, which is the dominant logic of entertainment programming today, end quote. On a sonic level, bro step aligns itself with many of these cinematic descriptions. Julianne Escobedo Shepard has described one particular producer's music as misogy blowjob beats. Other commenters have made more obvious semiotic connections between filmic imagery and the music, as Nitsa Abebe describes the bro step bass lines as conjuring, quote, obviously cool images like being inside the gleaming metal torso of a planet-sized robot while it punches an even bigger robot. While the sound has developed gradually over at least the past decade, the ubiquity of the distinctive mid-range bro step wobble bass can fundamentally be attributed to a single instrument. Massive, a software synthesizer developed by the Berlin and Los Angeles-based Native Instruments, combines the precise timbral shaping capabilities of modular synthesizers with the real-time automation capabilities of digital waveform editors. As a VST, or a virtual studio technology plugin, the device exemplifies the inherently transmedial nature of many digital tools, bridging studio techniques between digital audio workstations and analog synthesis, and acting as just one of the many control signals within the multi-windowed world of digital audio production. In this way, Massive may be characterized as an intersonic control network in which sounds are controlled and modulated by other sounds through constantly shifting software algorithms. Through analysis of the intersubjective control network of a program like Massive, we're able to hear the convergence of hypermediation and hypermasculinity as aesthetic forms. Media theorist Mara Mills details the notion of technical scripts embedded both within technological devices as well as user experiences. According to Mills, scripts are best defined as the representation of users embedded within technology. Designers do not simply project users into technological devices. These devices are inscribed with the competencies, tolerances, desires, and psychoacoustics of users. In short, electroacoustic objects have politics, and in the case of Massive, the politics of the script are quite conventional and historically familiar. The rhythmic and timbral control network of the software aligns itself with what Tara Rogers describes as a long history of violent masculinist control logics in electronic music. From DJs battling, to producers triggering a sample with a controller, or executing a programming command, or typing a bang to send a signal. In Massive, the primary control mechanism is the LFO, or the low-frequency oscillator, an infrasonic electronic signal whose primary purpose is to modulate various parameters of a synthesizer tone. Dubstep artists most frequently apply the LFO to a low-pass filter, generating a control algorithm in which an LFO filters and masks specific frequencies at a periodic rate, thus generating the wobble effect, which in turn modulates the cutoff frequency of up to 3 oscillating multiple oscillators at the same time. When this process is applied to multiple oscillators simultaneously, each operating at disparate levels of the frequency spectrum, the effect is akin to a spectral and spatial form of what Julian Enriques calls sonic dominance. You could pull up that last video, please. Massive allows the user to record automations on the rhythm, tempo, and quantization level of the bass wobble, effectively turning the physical gestures initially required to create and modulate synthesizer sounds, such as knob turning and fader sliding, into digitally inscribed algorithms. Here's just a short video I made just to show you how the wobble actually sounds. Well, you'll hear it. By positing the logic of digital audio production within a broader network of control mechanisms in digital culture, I'm not simply presenting a hermeneutic metaphor. Convergence media has not only shaped the content of various multimedia, but has redefined digital form, allowing us to witness a clear and potentially dangerous virtual politics of viral capitalism. The emergence of a military entertainment complex, or MEC for short, is the most recent instance of this virtual politics of convergence, as it encompasses broad phenomena including the use of music as torture, the design of video games for military training, which is actually happening at USC, and increasing collaboration between military personnel and video game designers in general, and drone warfare. The defining characteristic of this political and virtual space is a desire to simultaneously redefine the limits of the physical body and overcome those very limitations. The MEC, as well as broader digital convergence cultures, has molded this desire into coherent hegemonic form. Following video game theorist Jane McGonigal, virtual environments push the individual to work at the very limits of their ability in a state of infinite self-transition. Yet, automation and modular control networks in the virtual environments of digital audio production continue to encourage the historical masculinist trope of mastery, thus further solidifying the connection between music and military technologies found in the examples above. In detailing hypermediation and hypermasculinity as dominant and aesthetic forms of digital entertainment, it is not my goal to simply reiterate the Adornian nightmare of rhythm as coercion, or the more recent congressional fears over the potential for video games and other media to cause violence. The fact that music and video games in the MEC are simultaneously being used to reinscribe the systemic violence of the military-industrial complex, as well as to create virtual and actual communities, pinpoints precisely its hegemonic capabilities. In the face of the perennial mastery trope, I propose that we must develop a relational ethics of virtuality. While it seems to offer the virtue of a limitless infinity for the autonomous, often male individual, technological interfaces form the skin of the ethical subject, establishing the boundaries of a body both corporeal and virtual. In the context of digital audio production, then, the producer is not struggling against the technical limitations of the material interface, but rather emerging from the multiple relationships forming at the interface between one's actual and virtual self, and embracing a contingent and liminal identity. To quote philosopher Adriana Cabarero, a fragile and unmasterable self. Thanks.